Okay.
Yeah. So after this, they will study and get a lot of experience from you. And I'm very thankful for Mr. Mark for you that you spend, I think, at night at your time. And it is our pleasure to our organization that we have you on board. So that's why we will learn the new experience of CIPS. For CIPS in Cambodia, we do 3 years already. For every year, we have around 50 people to attend. So I think this year is the very breaking record. We have over 100 people to attend for the course. So I think this very big congratulations to the support team, Jake and Bong Chanda, Romania, that they do the fantastic job to collect a lot of information, promote the team, and also your profile is also make a lot of interest in Cambodia. So we hope that we can learn a lot from Mr. Mark about the CIPS. Okay, before you start the class, we would like to invite you to speak maybe 5 or a little bit to briefing about your background and see how the connection between besides this CVEA and NAR and CIPS Institute, we cooperated over 3 years already. We bring the people to study, we bring a lot of manager, and then we work together to get the destination of CIPS. Yeah, again, thank you, Mr. Mark, for your time to share us during these 5 days. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So before we get going, let me give you a quick introduction of who I am right now. My name is Mark Kitabayashi, and I am the current NAR's National Association of Realtors of the United States Global Coordinator for Asia Pacific region. So I take care everywhere. I take care, and each country has, some country has ambassador and some don't. And for Cambodia, I work with our staff SUPAP in NAR to help your country and your association as well. And also, I've been in a real estate in the United States for over 21 years now. And before that, I dealt with a lot of the import export, and I work mainly in the United States and Japan as well. And also, I've been a global instructors for many of the NAR classes, that's including CIPS, and there's other classes that we could offer in the future, like ABR, which is a buyer's class, or SFR, it's a seller's class, SRS. And there's a many classes that might be helpful too, to you as well, just to practice real estate in Cambodia as well. And my goal when I teach this global class is that hopefully you're able to, don't think as a global real estate as that you have to go somewhere outside of your country to sell real estate globally. A lot of the information you're going to get to through this course is going to help you hopefully on your everyday business. And we're going to talk about that today. There's 5 classes in this course. You have the global real estate local market. You have the global real estate United States market. We study United States market next week. And then we have the Americas. We study about other countries in America, that's including Canada, Mexico, and South America. Then we have a Europe. We study about the Europe. Then last one will be the Asia. We talk about the other fellow countries in Asia as well. And the goal is that you get something out of this class in order to be a better real estate agent in your country and your area that you serve, because this will help you to understand a different culture. Maybe you have a buyer coming from other countries, other areas that are going to be understanding how they are and their culture and the business culture. It'll be very easy and easier for you to be able to serve them better. So that's my goal is. And of course, with the CIPS, we'll talk about it throughout and what are some of the benefits of becoming a CIPS. To be able to be a CIPS, we'll go over this on the last day, but CIPS, we do have to take the 5 classes, plus you have to earn some points in order to get CIPS designation. and you need to maintain the CIPS designation by paying continuing to be an IRM, which is International Realtor member, which is $75 US, in order to continue your CIPS designation and to keep it. But we'll go through that as we go through the class. Any questions before we start?
So far, so
Everybody?
good, sir.
So far, so good? Okay.
Yes.
And also, if you have a question, I'm not going to be checking the chat box. Okay. So just unmute says, hey, Mark, I have a question. Mark, I have a comment. Just do that. I mean, we're about class of 100, but we're able to do that. So just unmute and just speak, okay? Because I'm not smart enough to try to do the slide and look at you, teach, and check the chat room. So just don't use the chat room. Use just unmute and just speak, okay? Let's get going. I'm going to skip a couple slides. So introduction, I did a little bit already. And course overview is that how the global economy shapes your market. This is for the course today and tomorrow. And what your hometown global market looks like. And cultural literacy of business, understanding the world business and serving the global market. And networking power and planning action and result and resources. We're going to study all that. And on the bottom of your screen, share screen, there's a number on there. It says number 1 right now. What does that mean? That number 1 means that's the page that you need to be on in your booklet that you received. You know, your booklet that you should receive. So that's when we are talking about that. That's the page number. And I'm going to refer quite a few times towards the book as well, because we cannot fit everything in slides. So we look at booklets as well. And anytime you have a question, just stop me, okay? I'll try to answer that as well. All right. So this is what we're looking at as a course overview for our course as well. And there's a 30-question optional exam, which we're not going to do. We're not going to do, so you don't have to do exam. But there's some group assignments or some exercise that we do and discussion that we do. So please participate. And earning the CIPS designation, you have to take all this. One is Global Real Estate Local Market, you're taking today. And the Business of U.S. Real Estate, you'll be taking it next week. That we'll be doing that. Then you're going to have to take 3 more courses from that. And we'll be right now doing the Europe, Asia, and Americas on this next month or so. All these are every week. So when you look at it, are you global? If you check page 5 of your book, and it's asking you a question, take a little bit of time right now and answer these questions if you can. On the 15 question that's on the page 5 of your book. Just kind of look at book and see, answer it. And
Page
see,
6,
check and see how many points you got, yes boxes you are able to check. So let's look at page 5 of your booklet and answer those questions. This would be 5 and 6, my fault, but there's 20 questions there. Go ahead, Rim. Just unmute and tell me, you have a question? And make sure you're muted when if you're not speaking as well. So remember to mute your computer.
We cannot hear any sound.
Yeah, right now I'm not speaking. So we're doing the exercise. So now you've done the exercise. That kind of tells you to give you a good start on where you're at being a very global person. Okay. So when we look at our class today, let's look at module 1. And module 1 is how the global economy shapes your market. And in this chapter, we're going to learn the following things. And this is on your page 7. Some topics is monitor trends and indicators, synthesize the information into meaningful, knowledgeable business plan and decisions. And how do I use the information that you get about global economy, local real estate markets, global flow of capital and wealth, real estate as an investment, and global connectivity through the internet and other things, trends and indicators that you might want to keep eye on when you look at international real estate. And when it comes to the other items, this lists you a little bit about the progression of the globalization. Think about the globalization. You know, we're saying that the world is becoming smaller, right? Is it a good things or bad things? Because of how we transport, and we also do a whole lot more traveling now easily. That's one of the reasons why the coronavirus spread so quickly as well. So is that a good thing or bad thing? But our economy is vibrant throughout the global economy. Now that almost the world, we're not able to just survive with our own countries anymore. We have to rely on other people. And we truly, truly saw that during the coronavirus and COVID-19, because many places we're still struggling with not having enough materials to certain things and so forth. But these are some of the book that in English might be able to help you to understand how the global economy is. And this might be the book you want to read in addition to what we study today. So we talk about the shrinking world. Our world is spreading with a lot of capitalism. I know that there are some countries and countries that still, as far as the politics are concerned, it is still a communist country or socialist, but way that we do economies become very capitalized, money oriented. And we're forming all kinds of alliances. Probably the best known alliances is in our area, your area is ASEAN. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And people are being interdependence, meaning that we are dependent on each other so much. And how easy is it to travel? Of course, right now for the last year and a half, it's not been easy to travel, but overall, and also the 21st century workforce. We'll talk about that a little bit later. How does that affect the global economy and global real estate? When you look at spirit of capitalism, let's look at that spirit of capitalism, which is on the page 12 and 13. Right now, you see these signs, and these are some of the we consider as a currencies. Politics are getting very mixed, and we rely on each other for prosperity as a country and even as an individual as well. When you look at this, this is on the page 13 on the chart. Capital appreciation and security. Overall investment, best opportunities for capital appreciation will be UK, US, Germany, and France. Most stable and secure real estate investment is US, UK, China, and Canada. Global cities for real estate investment ranked. This is worldwide. Los Angeles, Paris, Boston, London, San Francisco. These are the top 5 places people are investing in real estate. And sometimes many to do with a lot of the commercial real estate, not necessarily a residential or houses, but these investments are made. And we talk about alliances, right? Alliances eliminate trade barriers, especially in the Asia Pacific region. Europe has a EU, European Union. In the Asia Pacific, especially in our region, you have the ASEAN, and there's other organization that's there that will continue to study as well. And with that provides a more of a stability as a region on economy as well. And look at connectivity, which is starting on the page 114. Internet and social networking are world shrinking forces. Communication about the transaction and listings are worldwide. Now we're able to search many of the listing real estate that's for sale throughout the world as well. And around the clock financial market, they say that we have only few hours, actually they say about 25 minutes in the entire 24 hours that no stock market is open in the world. So right now, not we only have to pay attention to our own economy and stock market in our country, but actually we have to worry about world economy because everything could have an effect to us as well. And if you look at internet connectivity on page 15, it talks about how the worlds are connected. And the chart on the top page says internet user distribution in the world. When you look at it, how big the Asia is. 50.3% of internet distributions is in Asia. Of course, overall in Asia, of course, we have more than 50% of our population of the world in Asia, but those are going to help. When you look at connectivity here, offshoring, right? Technology and accounting, document imaging, mortgage processing, legal service, other things that we do offshores, and we outsource it throughout the rest of the world. In Asia, being one of the largest place, especially the English-speaking countries, that does offshoring or outsourcing it on a lot of the activities. And when you look at first quarter of 2020, that's the most recent one. We should get the new one pretty soon. This is how we talked about it, how much connectivity and who has the most. The Asia has the most connectivity there as well. And we talked about the round-the-clock financial market. We have a Canada, Paris, Hang Seng, Hong Kong, Wall Street. You have a Dow, NASDAQ, and you have a DAX, which is a Frankfurt. BSE is in Mumbai. FTSE is in London. Nikkei is in Tokyo. So stock market is open almost every hour of the day here in the 24-hour cycle. And let's look at further on page 16, talk about independence and specialization. What does that have? Advantage, economic efficiency and benefits. Disadvantage, dependence on other countries for commodities, which we saw during COVID. Like even the United States, because we stopped a lot of things, many of the things became very expensive. A lot of the shipment from China stopped. And we shortage of a mask. That happened in Japan as well. Japan's almost 80% of the face mask was actually made in China. But when they stopped the border, and Japan was very short of masks as well. The same thing is the United States. Many items that we use on a daily basis coming from overseas. With the COVID, we understand that how dependent we are, and some countries were not able to survive on our own because we don't have enough resources within our country to do that as well. And also the other things that happen is it's easy for money to flow right now. Right? Top remittance receiving countries, 2019. This is from the United States to wherever that money is being sent. India, China, Mexico, Philippines, and Egypt are the top 5 countries where the money from US went. And many of these are caused by, we'll study a little bit later, but many of the workers are coming from abroad to the United States to work and send the money back to their home countries. So this is how much money is flowing out of the United States to the other places. And look at the ease of travel. How easy to travel now. Airfare and everything else overall become very affordable. And there are many, many different flights, and it becomes very convenient. And you're looking at from ease to travel, who are the top foreign buyers of the United States real estate are from. Largest we came from China, then Canada, India, UK, United Kingdom, which is England, British, and Mexico. And nowadays, because of the currency differences and ease of travel, some of the US retirees might be looking to live abroad, like to the Thailand, to the Mexicos, and so forth, and live there after retirement. And they're easy to do that because it's easy to travel as well. And the cost of living is cheaper on many countries other than the United States. And we'll talk about that as we go through the countries and the region as well. And also, you become a CIPS and you become a National Association Realtor member, which you become once you become a CIPS. What you're going to be able to do is basically you are going to be able to get a 2019 foreign buyer's purchase, or you are able to buy, you're able to download profile of international transaction in the United States. And you'll be able to download it. You can figure out who are buying in the United States as well. When you look at 21st century workforce, where are they coming from? Global business and their workforce enter new markets. Remote workers might choose to live far from company office. Entrepreneurs are easy to start business from anywhere in the world right now. And after COVID, not even in the United States and maybe in Cambodia as well, you could share with me how the Cambodia it is right now. A lot of the people who used to live in the high-rise condominium and so high-rise in the downtown, when you have to stay home all day, they said, I want to be out, live outside of the city and have a little bit more yard and a little bit bigger house. That happened in the United States as well. And also a lot of people work remotely, meaning that they didn't have to be at the office, going to office, but you'll be able to work from the home. And they realize, you know what? I don't have to live even in, some people say, I don't even have to live in my country. I could work from different country as well. And some work allows you to do that. And some company allowing them to do, several months out of a year, or some people are doing remotely all the time. And they might have to go to company once or, twice a week or once a month or something. And people are doing that as well. And when you look at it, other things that we have to understand is what flows. Capital. What flows around the world? The currencies, the assets, capital goods, even debt or credit, information, technology, innovation. All these things are flowing all over the place right now throughout the world. And there's no border right now. And other ones, the capital flees. And what capital seeks? Capital seeks acceptable risk and return, favorable ROI. ROI is return on investment. And capital seeks quality properties, if it's a real estate, affordable and available credit. If they could borrow money somewhere else cheaper, they do that. They don't have to stick to their own country anymore. An orderly and transparent marketplace. We want to make sure that our marketplace, including real estate, is very transparent. So everybody works in the same way. So it's easy to transfer capitals and everything else. What capital flees? Meaning the capital will go away when the falling returns and value decline. Declining economy is going, sometimes it's hard to get capitals into it. If there's more ownership restriction on real estate or other things, people might not invest in your country more than other countries. And movement restriction. If there's more visa restriction, other restriction, that might be something that we look at. And if it's a very tight or expensive credit, they might flee from that country if you're not able to get a good credit as well. The capital flows. Capital flow trend. Oversupply of the capital allow investment through 2007 when you look at it. And remember, after 2007, because of the in Japan called Lehman shock, with the bubble bursted in the United States and so forth in the housing market, everything went down. And global pandemic in 2020, stymied investors' willingness to invest. Some people grew a fear for investing in foreign market when you're not able to travel or even to communicate with the coronavirus. Possibly people are not shying away from making a foreign investment. I want to control what I invest in. I want to stay in my country. And there's a couple of theories that's when you look at it, and which are bargain rate theory, loss avoidance theory, and market linkage theory. And there's a couple of theories on the economics that it's going to help you to understand what are these theories are. And you look at it, the bargain rate theories are, this is on your booklet, chapter 19. He talks about bargain rate theories that capital flows to the point of the relative weakness where the prices are at bargain rates and other currencies have more buying power. Or loss avoidance theory. When the values decline, international investors avoid buying assets that may lose value and negate any advantage gained from the exchange rate. A market linkage theory. A single global system interlinks the world's economy, which rise and fall together. And I think there's market linkage theory is very true to a certain extent. If one global stock market falls, most likely the trickle down effect in all other market will flow go down as well. So what has influences the capital flow that you have? Balance of payments. GDP and GNP, right? Gross domestic product and gross national product, GNP. Raising rate indicates that it's growing economy and investment opportunity. When it's growing, GDP and GNP keep going up. So we need to pay attention to that. And political events, that shows you stability of the economy and stability of the country, right? And right now, as you know, there's some unrest and, protest or coup, or however you want to call it, even within Asia, as a Myanmar or Laos, having internal issues right now with the politics. So a lot of people are shying away from making an investment. Some of the Japanese company, other companies are pulling out of Myanmar right now because it's so unstable to do business there. In the global events, right? Every single things that happened last year, COVID-19 affected every single person in the entire world. This is probably one of the first things that ever happened that affected every single person in the entire world was COVID-19. And hopefully we're getting out of it. In the United States, we're certainly making a good recovery. And many places were, most of the, even place I live, which is Washington State. In our area, overall, we have reached immunization that over 70% of the people in the state of Washington have the vaccine shot as well. So it's getting better. Inflation rate. High inflation rates the value of the financial events and increases the cost of living, right? High inflation rate is bad, but a little bit lower on the inflation rate going up a little bit is actually good to a certain extent, because that means economy is growing. It's when it grows and demand's there more than the supply, then it goes up. Currency values. When we do international global business, we have to worry about our currency value, because currency values up and down, exchange rate could make or break a deal right now as well. Interest rate. It's a cost of borrowing money. In the United States, for residential listings for Americans, we're at one of the lowest interest rate in the history of the United States. Our 30-year mortgage, we'll talk a little bit more in detail next week when we talk about U.S. business. We are able to interest rates right around below 3%. In U.S. has been in the 80s, we were high as closer to 19% on that mortgage interest rate as well. How about domestic consumption and savings? Is people spending money? People need to spend money to vitalize the economy as well. And during the COVID, United States, a lot of people save money because we couldn't go out. So they didn't have a place to spend money. In the United States, as you know, is one of the one of the most debt countries in the world. And in the United States, sometimes you're not even considered as a person unless you owe money. Generally in Asia, owing money is not a good thing. Sometimes you consider as a shame. But United States, if you're not borrowing money, sometimes you're not able to get a loan because they think that you don't have a good credit. How about business cycle? How does business cycle affect your business? Peaks and valleys, up and downs of the business. Is there a cycle on certain things? Like in the United States, real estate, we're usually about into 10 to 12 year cycle and goes up and down a little bit. But it has not gone down a little bit, but it's been up and up right now, but kind of stabilized a little bit during the summer right now, starting to see a little bit of a slowdown. But it doesn't mean it's a bad slowdown because it was going up too fast in the United States. How about trade, import, export, and the volume? How's that going to affect the economy? And what kind of investment choices you might have in the rest of the country or the world? What kind of choices do you have? Is the real estate only investment, or is there other opportunities? Is real estate still a best investment? And also trying to find out uniform manufacturing and professional standards, right? And we're trying to globalize and make the standards of a lot of the, when you manufacture and so forth, so it's interchangeable, be able to use throughout the world. Of course, one of the goal the United States have and National Association Realtor has is not to enforce it, but we understand, that's why we take CIPA classes, to understand the world economy and world real estate, so you be very transparent and so that we all have able to understand how the real estates are transacted in different countries. And of course, it's not on here, but we talked about it. It's a global event, COVID-19, right? This was the first global pandemic that really affected the entire world in the modern era, because last worldwide was, Spanish flu, which is back in 1919, right? 100 years ago. But how does COVID-19 affect our lives? And all of us went through that, and it had a different effect on, depends on who you are, but we have that effect. So let's look at US economic indicators. And just remember, some of these courses are written for a lot of the United States students. So sometimes you see it as more US centered and not global, but I try to make it as global as possible. So US economic indicator, or if you go to Cambodia, it's always important to understand how the economy of Cambodia is. So in the United States, you could look at US GDP, Bureau of Economic Analysis, and you keep looking at inflation, unemployment is some of the number you're going to look at, and labor productivity and things like that we're going to look at on a regular basis all the time. In BLS, means Bureau of Labor Statistics. BLS has a lot of these ideas as well. And if you go to the BLS, you'll be able to find these items for United States economy as well. And continuing, retail sales. Census Bureau, United States, we have a Census Bureau one time every 10 years. And we had one just recently in 2020. So we have a new census data that comes up. Look at tracking exchange rate. Federal Reserves, Federal Reserves keep track of that. Or interest rate, Federal Reserve controls the interest rate. Asset, liability, and financial flow. One of the things you want to pay attention to is when you do a real estate in the United States, you want to pay attention to the Treasury bond rate, because Treasury bond rate actually affects the mortgage interest rate. It's not the Federal Reserve's exchange rate or interest rate that affect the real estate. And you look at mortgage rate. We need to keep track of mortgage rate right now, how it affects our money. So let's look at global indicators. When you're in the United States and if you're in Cambodia, you want to look at it. What are the import-export situation, trade balances in your country or United States? Or what kind of money Cambodia or Cambodia companies are investing overseas? Or where from US that's coming into Cambodia? These are good resources to have, because that's where the money flows. It may be there's an opportunity for you when there are foreign investment that might not be a real estate that's invested into Cambodia. Because if somebody's establishing a company or factory in Cambodia, then yeah, people who's going to be working there coming from abroad going to be need housing as well. Or where are the other countries that's investing directly into the United States? That might be very important to understand where we are at. And when you look at it on the page 24, it talks about the leading economic indicators here in the United States. We talk about it. So we talked about it a little bit. So this might be a place you want to look at to continue to monitor at least the economy of the United States. And a lot of the economy of the United States reflects the rest of the world as well. All right. Any questions? We are at the end of chapter 1. Any questions, comment, anything is okay. Anybody has a questions or comments?
No,
You're okay?
I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah, we are okay, but a little bit faster.
You want to go? You want us to go faster? Too fast? Or I'm too slow?
I think it is too fast.
Too fast? Okay, I'll slow it down. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So
sorry.
whenever you feel that, just unmute. Don't wait for me to ask you. Says Mark, you're going too fast. Then I'll slow down. Okay.
Sorry, sir. Indicate a global indicator. What is the full word of BEA? What is that?
BEA
Yes.
is, you want to know what BEA is? It is
Yes.
listed here, Bureau of Economic Analysis. Right here. BEA is right here. You see it right here on the chart right here, global indicator. It says Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA.
Thank you.
That's the company in the United States. So you could Google BEA and they'll be able to tell you how the US's economy is as well. But you know, the one thing that you want to do is for you as a Cambodian is to understand the economic of Cambodia. Just like how we kind of share with you how the US people need to do, but we need to do as a Cambodian, you need to understand the economy of Cambodia. Because that's the first things that people are going to ask you if they want to make foreigners make an investment to Cambodia, says, how is the economy in Cambodia? And you should be able to answer that question. Before you become an expert in the different country, you need to become an expert. You have to know very good about economy, not just the real estate, but entire economy in the Cambodia as well. And also be able to compare how important the housing market is versus the economy and how the housing market affect the economy as well. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. One thing that relate to the indicator for the global indicator. What about the impact? Like the unstable, the cooperation, the cooperation between the Cambodia, US and China. What impact for the economy?
That's right now probably globally, that's the biggest things that people paying attention to, right? How the China and US are going to work together or not work together, but there's a friction there as well. And also there's a friction between United States and Russia as well, right?
Yeah.
And you have a safety. That's why it is. And funny thing is, even though, you know, for you, you're in Cambodia, but the things that happen in other parts of the world now affects you quite a lot. Because like Cambodia, you know, you have many different investment that's coming from different country, and a lot are coming from China, and there's some coming from US and Japan and so forth. So it does make a difference of your country's economy. Yes, definitely how it works. And the other thing that is going to affect us, all of us right now, is whether we believe it or not, is we talk about the global warming, right? The world is getting too warm and we need to conserve environmental issues. And some country agrees with it, but it's going to be very difficult to control the global warming as well, especially being a part of the developing country when there are a lot of energies needed and they don't have enough resources to convert. But there's many issues on global warming as well. And global warming definitely is affecting housing industry as well. Example, in the United States, global warming is making difference on how the houses are built, how the energies are spent. People are trying to go away from, you know, energy resources that could be environmentally wrong. But we'll talk about all those by, you know, like using coal or they're everybody turning from the natural gas to a electric. But there is a problem with just everything going to electric as well. So we do have to watch whatever happening globally as well. But before we watch the globally, but you need to understand the economy of Cambodia and how the Cambodia is and how the global economy has an effect into Cambodia as well. All right. Any other question?
I got a question, sir.
Sure.
Could you please clarify the term of balance of payment, please?
Okay, balance of payment. Okay, let's go back. When you look at balance of payment, he talks about it on, let me go back on the slide. Influence of a capital flow, right? And that is on your page 20 of your booklet.
That's it.
Right? And it says the balance of the payment. Investors use these statistics to follow economic trends and improving the economic to attract investment. Balance of payment, meaning that how people are paying, making the payments. If the payment smoothly going, let's say even you invest the money, how's the return on the investment? Is it coming back easily or it's having difficult time? They keep looking at that to find out where is the best place to invest. Because investors' goal is what? To make money, right? And by looking at the balance, how people are, let's say you invest money into a ABC company in United States. And are they giving you enough return? Or if you give a loan, are they paying you back as they're supposed to? If not paying back, that means, economy might not be going well. So that might not be a best place to invest. So that's the balance of a payment. Okay?
A little bit more.
Go ahead.
You say here, investor use this statistics. So statistics here, what kind of statistics that you collect from and to identify
Balance of payments. Usually you can look at it on many. One of the things that you look at is where you're going to look at is the stock market. Why stock market? You look at stock market and see what kind of dividends or the money the company is paying back to the stockholders. That's a good way of indicating whether the payments are made. Because there are a lot of investments that are made, but sometimes there's no return yet. It could be a good return in the future, but that's how you're going to look at it, is figure out, okay, I'm okay for investing this money for 10 years, then maybe I'll get my return, big return maybe. Or I don't want to play for 10 years. I want to see how the return is. If they were making a good return every year to the stockholders, that's how you're going to look at it. So that's where you look at a balance of payment. Good way to indication, look at stock market is companies, their return to the stockholders. But, and usually sometimes you make a big investment, future investment, you might become a big, right? People who invested money in like Microsoft or Apple, when they started back in the days, they make it a lot of money, right? That's same as like Bill Gates. He made a lot of money, not because he has a lot of cash, because stocks that he owned as a stockholder and major stockholder in Microsoft, that increased, that created his money and wealth, right? Okay, any other question?
Sources that I read in this slide, in the books, page 20 or so, like the end of the page, you put the COVID-19. That's the one thing that I have an idea to add. If we have a vaccine, it influence on the capital flow. If all around the world have the vaccine and the people get the vaccine all together, maybe the capital flow is good, better.
Yeah, definitely. But I think COVID-19 and coronavirus has taught us a lot of things, right? A lot of things about even ourselves, right? Because in the United States, this is the first time in my lifetime I did not travel since last February, end of February was the last time I got on the airplane. I'm usually gone. I'm usually on the plane about 200 days a year. I'm not home. I'm traveling a lot of places. But it's the first time I've been home for almost a year and a half now, right? And I learned a lot about myself too. And you know, you have to be very nice to your wife as well, because she's with you 24 hours now. Because usually my wife is not with me when I'm traveling. You know, but we have a good marriage, but you know, a lot of things you learn. And everybody was affected, right? Kids was affected with their schools. Our money flow was affected. So, you know, COVID-19, I think, taught us a lot of things, and we have to learn from what we learned. That applies to your life as well.
Actually, that I mentioned like that, you referred to Cambodia, that the impact from the COVID-19, that we did not get vaccine. So everything blocked. That economic market flow is blocked. Everything blocked. But after we got the vaccine, everything goes step by step.
I think so. You know, a lot of country, you know, they blocked everything, right? And when you have a smaller country and developing country like Cambodia and some other smaller country, it's very difficult when everything stops. You know, that's including the commodity items that's coming in and also the cash, right? Money. Everybody stopped investing because no one knew, right? Now we kind of have an idea where we're going, how to contain, right? But when think about 1 year ago, no one knew where this was going. You know, we are not worrying about investing money in different places. We're worried about myself, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's worried about themselves. They could get COVID, they could die, or whatever it might be. So it's changed, but hopefully it's going to get back. But we do understand, I think now, more so than ever, good and bad is, remember, we're so global and we're one small world, good and bad. When bad things happen, it travels very quickly as well. But good things happen, it travels quickly as well. And we have to rely on each other, and basically we have to be nice to each other. That's when, like you said, you know, the economy and the friction between China, US and Russia is always, it's a big deal. And right now we're talking when it gets to nuclear, you know, that Iran just had their election. And then there's a brand new president or prime minister that's going to be part of it. And there are more be participant with the rest of the world. So there's a lot of unsettledness throughout the world, right? And that's going to affect your business as well.
Another question, sir.
Sure.
In your professionalism in international real estate and in your expertise, so how do you see the real estate market in Cambodia? What types of real estate that you would recommend to invest for Cambodia right now?
In Cambodia?
And the second question is, what are the mechanisms in order to push or accelerate the capital cash flow into Cambodia?
So let's talk about, you guys tell me what's good to invest in Cambodia. So what tomorrow, that's your homework, okay? If I come to you, that's why we're starting this local market, right? If I come to you, says on, or you know, whoever, Hale or Melissa, or Ching, tell me what's the best place to invest in Cambodia. You tell me tomorrow, okay? You make a study, and it could be different because you might be from different parts of Cambodia as well. I don't think everybody's from Phnom Penh. Your capital city could be different, and you might be different. So tell me tomorrow about your local market where you sell your real estate. What do you think is the best investment is? And you tell me and how Cambodia is. What are some of the restrictions that Cambodia have about foreign investors?
Yeah.
You have to tell me that as well. I might have a money I want to invest.
Yeah.
But if the Cambodia government says, no, you cannot invest unless it's a certain things, then I might change my mind and go somewhere else. So let's look at that tomorrow, okay? You guys share with me what Cambodia is. That's to understand the local market. And I know that getting the statistics of your local market is very difficult in some of the country. We'll talk about United States and MLS tomorrow. But since there's no central place that you gather real estate data in many of the countries, it might be hard, but you have to know that. We as an investor want to know. When it comes to this, why should I invest in this place? Why? Tell me why Cambodia is a good place to invest. Okay, well, that's homework for everybody. You
Sure,
might not
sure.
have to tell me tomorrow, but you need to know that if you want to be a global real estate agent. All right, so it's 8 o'clock right now. Sorry, it's 8 o'clock in my time. Sorry about that. It's at 10 a.m. right? 10 a.m. in your time. So let's take a 10 minutes break. So we'll come back at 8:10. About 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes break and go to your restaurant, go get your coffee. I don't know what you eat in Cambodia in the morning. Coffee, tea, donuts. But donuts and coffee is the United States. But do whatever you need to do, and let's come back in 10 minutes and we start from chapter 2. Okay. All right, let's take our 10-minute break. I'll take a few minutes. I'll come back if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. 2 seconds.
Ngặt bé, mặt đấy bong bong, cụ tên nào bà đấy bà. Bà, số đây bong xin na.
បាទសួស្តី
Sọc sọc vai bong.
សុខសប្បាយ
Ngàn tích số sọc. Đấy.
ចុះយើង break វាងអីយើងមិនបង
Đấy.
ពេលនេះសុខសប្បាយ
Nè, bên đây sọc sọc vai đó bong.
ហ្នឹងហើយ lecture គាត់មកវិញ
Mà giờ này bong càng bong nhân mà cái này này.
Bọn bình nước suy bọn xin ha
បាទសួស្តី
bọn khai biết sẽ bàn này score chờ đó này không để nhầm
ហ្នឹងហើយម្រងក៏បាត់មុខយូរហ្មងដូចរៀងមានព្រលឹងហ្មង
miền lần có cái vô chờ đi bọn học năng
ច្រើនរវល់ច្រើនហើយរវល់ច្រើនហើយជ្រាបបានមក training ទៀត
tờ chliết bọn
ត្រូវហើយយើងការសិក្សាគ្មានព្រំដែន
ba năng này thầy vì phục lục đa tầm búng vậy vậy mày là hồn chẳng bị sặc xa thế toàn kế
ត្រូវហើយ
nhưng
ត្រូវ ព្រោះយើងព្យាយាម update knowledge យើងឲ្យតន់សម័យកាល
បាទ
មិនស្ថនសុខសប្បាយ
Còn sớm mai ca Covid nè.
ណៅសម័យកាល Covid យើងងាកមក training ដើម្បីយើងការចំណេះដឹងរបស់យើង
I think we should
Mai ca Covid ở châu karaoke bạn thấy không?
ខំឯងទៅខំមិនត្រូវសម័យ Covid ចូលចឹងនាំអ្នកកំពុងសោមផងខំ
Wow, nếu miền quân miền câu này đôi nhom nào không? Bọn con thì xua bong.
Rep số mê. Vì chừng ngay mê rồi bye mê. Say hello to Big Boss.
Từ tan tóc đã ban chung ấy rồi mà bọn ai
ខំឯងទៅទេប្រាប់មុនទៅគេអាចជួបគ្នាបានណា
Quạt mố của China riêng đấy.
Nhớ ngày tránh kia phút tay kia của họ tay trăm ca nơi thành tộc.
Không bạn không bạn mê chăm mà đi trong skit chụp mê mềm này ngày ca đi đi mềm ở con chân mê.
Ba mê là hay dùng mê bọn
mê miên trần của
mê sẽ phó nè ta là mê
mê equal boss.
All right, so we'll give a few more minutes and then we'll get started back.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, and can someone tell me how is the COVID situation in Cambodia right now? Is it getting better?
Mr. Mark, in COVID in Cambodia, much in little bit worse, something like that. Before yesterday, people passed away 10 and over 700 in the positive. So right now, seem concerned about COVID. Like in the you talking about the COVID-19, the global, but we have a both short term and long term. Mostly, I think is long term. So let you ask me as a Cambodian participate at this moment. We will Bruce and introduce something like about Cambodia, economic investor like in Phnom Penh, Siem Reap, Siem Reap, and about Thailand, such as Poi Pet. So we will in something like we inform you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think is that like in the United States, most of the places, our economy will be almost 100% open, most likely in a lot of places by end of this month or middle of the July. And we're back to fully right now. State of Washington State, which is Seattle. This is where I live right now, and I'm bringing you from the Seattle area. And our economy will be 100% open at the end of this month. So we're back to normal, so to speak. But I don't know what normal is anymore because we've been through many different things. And I think that we have to we learn is one good thing that happened with the COVID is what we're doing today. We're able to take a class and I'm able to teach you. I know it's not the same as being together, but I'm able to teach you from here in the United States. And you're able to take a class. You don't even have to travel within your country. You could take it at home or your office and be able to do this type of a class. Because before COVID, we never thought doing this. We have to go to Cambodia. You have to go somewhere to take a class. But now we're able to do this. So in a sense, we have a better communication, different type of communication, but good communication than before COVID. Because I teach class right now maybe 2-3 times a week throughout United States from my home. Before I could only teach in one place, then I have to travel, but now I don't. So, communication is better. And I think we might have a better communication in the United States. I have a better communication even with my family or even my clients because, we have Zoom and we utilize and we don't have to travel. But anyway, COVID affected every single country and it definitely has an effect on person and also to economy and of course, housing market as well. And we'll talk about COVID and US housing market tomorrow when we talk about US a little bit more. Okay, any questions or comments before we move forward?
Okay, Mark, may I have one question, please?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, you told us about how to identify our country economy and then be able to compare with other economy of other country and also the global one which affects to our local economy. So
right.
If you are the one who I'm gonna ask, how is the economy of your country? So which economic indicator that you're gonna tell us in such a brief way or a detailed way?
Okay, one big things that you want to talk about is how the economy is going. Now, one indicator is unemployment rate.
Okay.
So unemployment rate, and it's all different in different country, right? And as you keep studying throughout the history, what the unemployment rate should be somewhere. It's never going to be zero. Of course, the lower the better, but it's all different in each country. Some country has closer to 30% unemployment rate, but that's normal. For some United States is below, and we're about 11%, and it's gone down to about 9%, which is where it needs to be. We need to be single digit. That's one thing to look at unemployment rate, right?
So which percentage that we can measure, whether it is high or low?
That's up to each country is different. While you look at history, then you could look at the average, and if it's a below average or above average, then you could tell. Because unemployment rate is different in every single country. So check your unemployment rate in Cambodia.
Okay.
And see what has been. Let's look at 10 years. And see if it's a stable, or maybe with the COVID, maybe it went up. After COVID, it might come down, and so forth. Because that tells you how many people are working, right?
Yes.
If people don't work, there's no money coming out. So unemployment, that's one thing that you're going to look at.
Okay.
And other things you're going to look at is in any country, it's very hard to see the housing market.
Oh.
That's where we're in real estate. Why the real estate is important? Because there's 3 things that's most important for people usually. Any place you live, Number one, the clothes that you wear, right? Clothes you wear, food, right? Something to eat. And roof, meaning shelter. You want to have a house or something. So
Yes.
those are big three indicator whether money's been spent or not. People is not going to spend a lot of money on clothes when they have no money. And people are not going to buy even new car or even new house or go out and eat restaurants when there's no money. You know, sometimes in a lot of their countries, you know, eating out in a, you know, night market and things like that, that might be cheaper than cooking sometimes, you know. But in the United States, we look at those things. How's the housing market? How's the consumer spending, meaning how is people spending money? And unemployment, those are the three is a big top indicators. Because looking at stock market is very hard, right? Because it goes up and down almost every day. But those three are the ones that you're going to look at, economic indicator, how healthy the country is. Of course, when you look in a bigger picture, you're going to look at like a GDP, gross domestic product. You know, you could see that, you could do GDP and you could Google and you could get, you know, information on all the countries, so including your country. But to me is, if I'm explaining to you and you come to US and ask about investment, how is this market? And then that's the national market, right? Then you have a local market. National market tells you how the country is. Local market, meaning we'll talk that right now, talk about your hometown global market. How is your market doing? Meaning my market of Seattle versus, let's say, Los Angeles. It's different, totally different. So those are things you need to know about your local market. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So we will talk about your hometown global market.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry, I have one question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Just one question to ask you based on your experience. Is there any countries that its economy does not rely on other countries like USA and China?
I think right now, global economy, maybe on the product, meaning, you know, something that's produced, materials, there are many countries in the world that be able to be self-sustainable, such like United States and China. If they stop all the import, they could still maintain the country. But there's not too many countries in the world that could do that because there's not enough resources. Like a lot of countries in Asia, we rely on so much each other with the money and everything that's coming in. Or EU, that's the reason that Europe created an EU, that which we will study in a couple of weeks, because they want to be economic power force. And that's what ASEAN's trying to do right now, right? Association of Southeast Asian Nation, it try to create like a EU in Asia. If ASEAN fully functionally works, you will become one of the largest economic power in the world. It might be bigger than United States and China, ASEAN as an area. But we haven't quite materialized that yet. But that's why the ASEAN is a very, very important part of the world. And we, from the worldwide, from US and other places, we look at it as well. Okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Let's do module 2. And if you have any question, you can ask at the end, or you could stop me anytime. Okay. So let's your hometown global market. This might be looking more towards what is in the United States, but in this chapter, we will study identical local market opportunities and make connections, prospect for global business in your local market, take advantage of the association resources. How do I use this information? Where are the gateway cities in the United States? Where are the gateway cities in your country? And prospecting locally means global prospecting, meaning finding clients locally. And acceptable target marketing strategies. And working with your Realtors Association, and also utilizing your IRM's International Realtor membership that NAR has. How do you utilize that? We'll talk about that as well. First of all, in order to have a global business, Do we have to leave? We have to go travel somewhere to have a global business? Actually, no. There are many, many opportunities are there in your local market. Wherever your city might be Phnom Penh or maybe other parts of the Cambodia as well. And the local business, local opportunities there can lead us to a more global business. And also giving CIPS, International Specialty, gives a competitive market distinction locally. By studying and having a CIPS designation, you could advertise that, use that as advertisement. You know what? I understand the local market, but I also understand the market in the United States, market in other places, market in Europe, wherever. That could become your strength because you have more knowledge than people who don't have a CIPS. But key part of any success in real estate is understanding your local market and what's the opportunity there in your hometown market. When you look at United States, these are the top 5 states that where the people are, international sales are happening. Florida, California, Texas, Arizona, New Jersey. These are the top 5 in United States. And we'll study about these places as we study the different country as well. Florida. Why Florida? Florida is a gateway to South America and Central America. And also many Europeans like to have their vacation home in Florida as well. California, of course, a lot of the investment come from Asia because it's the closest and largest. And we have the largest Asian population with immigrants and people abroad working in the United States, in California as well. Texas. Texas is a very popular place for investment as well. Why? Still, the housing price in Texas is still low. And there are many corporations, including IT companies, are moving to Texas, or they have offices in Texas. Austin, Texas is Austin is a capital city of state of Texas, and it's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States because most of the IT companies, a lot of technology companies are moving there as well. Arizona. Why Arizona? Arizona is a very favorite vacations place. A lot of the Canadians and people in the north, even from domestically from like Seattle, during the colder winter, they want to go down to Arizona where it's warm all the time. And the price is still relatively more cheap than, let's say, California or other places. New Jersey. Why New Jersey? Isn't it interesting to see New Jersey is not has more than New York? New York, there's a lot of commercial investment that happens, but residential wise, New York is too expensive. So they go to New Jersey, which is only a bridge away. You just cross the bridge from Manhattan and it's a New Jersey is there. So those are the reasons why. When you look at it, where are the top 5 countries that's investing in the United States? These are in $1 billion. China, Canada, Asian Indians, that's from India, UK, United Kingdom, British, and Mexico. These are the top 5 money that's coming into United States. The origin or where the money is coming from. If you continue to look, so what are these property usage for these people that's investing? Look at Canada. Most of the investment the Canadians make is 48% is for vacation home, basically for winter getaway. When it's hot in the summer, cold in the winter, you want to go to Arizona for investment, or Florida, depends on which side of the country you're in, East Coast or West Coast. But when you look at China, there are many investment. 28% is done to residential real estate or rentals. They buy investment properties. Look at India. India's foreign investment is most of the foreign buyers who are buying it as a primary residence. What does that mean? We have a lot of Indian nationals who live in United States, providing many of the workforce in the United States, such as in IT or medical field. And we'll study India a little bit later in our courses. So they buy, most of the Indians that's buy is people who lives in the United States, but their nationality is still India and their residency might be United States, but they're still foreign investor. Same as Mexico, right? And you look at UK, 29% is a vacation, 38% is to live here. These are the property use of the investor that's coming in. You might not be able to get this type of data in Cambodia, but check and see how it is in Cambodia, in the real estate and other areas. When you look at, and other things that you want to do is you look at it on page 32 coming up. So how do we work with the international buyers? What are some of the characteristics of working with the international buyers? What are they looking for? It's looking for long-term perspective. Real estate should not be a short-term investment. Look at it as a long-term investment. You look at it minimum 5 years to 10 years. And one of the characteristics are all cash or high equity transaction. They might borrow money, but if they're going to borrow money, very little. And a lot of times it's all cash transaction. And they're looking for acceptable and very predictable returns. People are not taking a lot of high risk when they do an international investment. And they're going to look at quality of the properties, what kind of properties they're buying. Desirable location and familiar market. They want to go to desirable location and familiar market. So when the individual investor are coming, it all depends. They usually invest on the area that they think where the United States is. What are some of the cities that in United States, America that you know? Tell me. Anybody?
How about Utah and Hawaii?
Hawaii, right? Okay, Hawaii might be one place. How about Hawaii? So Honolulu. What other places? When you think of America, what city do you think?
Miami.
Anywhere? Maybe Los Angeles, San Francisco. You know, a lot of Asian people know a lot of cities in the West Coast. And just depends on what kind of industry they're in. You know, they might say Seattle, or they might say New York. You know, and a lot, like recently, a lot of people are starting to say Texas. But for a lot of Asian people, you know, they think of the market that they know comes to their mind, which is like Hawaii, you know, Honolulu, Los Angeles, or California, right? California, San Francisco, or maybe, you know, other places, New York.
How about Utah?
Utah is not popular by investors. You might know, because some of you might know Utah because of your relationship that you might have, but Utah is not a big housing market. But it's a beautiful place, you know. But that's one thing about Chinese investor I could tell you is that one big difference about Chinese investor right now, Chinese investors will buy anywhere. And they buy a lot of things. Because one of the reasons why they do that is their goal is mainly might not be investment. They just want to get their money out from China when they can. So that might be one of the reasons why that they do that investment to China. Not necessarily they want to make an investment and make money off of it, because there is definitely a restriction of the flow of money between China and US. for individual investor as well.
Sure.
Hey, excuse me, Mark.
Uh-huh.
I noticed this. So look into the app called Homey. To look into that, I see the home in Utah quite more expensive than the home in Arizona or even Florida.
Some places, yes, definitely, because Utah has several places that's very resort-like. But when you look at it's in United States, it's very difficult to look at average price by each state. You want to go by cities because it could be very different. And we'll share with you that tomorrow or more of the details on US market, okay? Not tomorrow, but next week. Sorry.
Okay, Mark, one more question, Mark. To the real situation for Cambodia, mostly they live in the Washington, D.C., Texas, and California, Long Beach. How about Long Beach?
Where's that? Long Beach?
Yes.
Long Beach is LA, right? Close to Los Angeles.
Correct.
Yeah, so Washington, D.C. and Texas, Texas is becoming one of the larger investment places for Asian because Asian population is growing very fast. Number one is because a lot of the Asian companies are moving to Texas because it's very favorable to invest in Texas because the taxes are cheaper in Texas. And the lands there's a lot big state. Texas is a big state. So land and houses are cheaper in Texas as well. So that's one of the reasons that people are moving. Washington, D.C. because a lot of time people are moving Washington, D.C. because of course it's the center of the political. And a lot of money from the US government and everything else flows to Cambodia as well. So that's why they want to be there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Continue.
Thank you. Okay. And you want to do detailed research. What does that mean? You want to know the research of whatever you know about investor and home buyers, what's happening in your local market, who's buying in your local market. And specialized advisor. What does that mean? Buying a real estate maybe needs somebody more than just a real estate agent. They might need an attorney, right? Especially investor, they might need an attorney to maybe establish a corporation, or maybe even an accountant who could help you with the financing and taxes between the country that you're investing in country the United States is. So that has become very important. So these are some of the things. So once you're going to establish a global real estate, you need to have a team that's established with the accountant and attorney that could help you maybe with the visa or understanding the law of your country or the other country, or the accountant who understands the accounting and the tax law in each country or some of the countries that you're going to deal with. Prospecting locally. I think this is a key part of all the CIPS class in the entire month that we will be studying together. How about awareness of the opportunity in your local market? Look around in your local market before you go overseas. What kind of opportunities are there? And know the knowledge of your dynamics in your market. Who's buying? Who's selling? What kind of investment opportunities are there? Is it a commercial investment that's popular in your area, or residential investment? Well, one way to look at it is you don't even now have to know how the foreign investors are coming. Look at your domestic investors who's Cambodians invest in your part of the town or the city. Why are they picking that city? And what are they investing into? Because most likely you'll be very similar to the foreign investor when they look at economics of investing in real estate. Okay, so you need to know that as well. How do you outreach to potential clients, customers, and other real estate professionals? And when you look at market outreach, it talks about in page 34, starting. Right, and you look at in 36, page 36, he talks about the outreach. We'll go through this in detail. Page 34 talks about awareness. Start with a macro level assessment. What does that mean? What do you think it means, start macro? you need to understand how it is, we talked about it, right? Economy and real estate in Cambodia, it is. That's a macro market. Or maybe it's your region. It's a prefecture or state, wherever you might be, you want to do the macro level. These resources for United States, and I'll share with you a little bit tomorrow, and probably tomorrow, on how you could get resources through NAR website as well, back to United States, about each state in United States. And if it's America, U.S. International Trade Administration. In Cambodia, go talk to your trade association, World Trade Association, see how the economies are flowing in and out of Cambodia. You might be able to go through the website and find out, or you might have to go take a visit. Or how about your state or local or city economic development agencies? What are they doing to bringing a business from other parts of the world? Like city that I live in, my city that I live in is called Olympia, where I am about 100 kilometers south of Seattle, but we're only about an hour away in the car. And like our city, we have a many sister city relationship with cities in Japan and China and so forth. And we do a lot of economic trading as well. So those could be your resources. And check and see, other than the real estate, what are other local businesses doing to attract foreign businesses? Or what kind of foreign people living in your town? Is there a certain supermarket that's more popular other than the regular market? Is there a Japanese community, Japanese market, or Chinese market, or Chinese Chamber of Commerce and things like that? You look at your local market and see what's out there. That's part of your awareness. And you need to know the knowledge. Who are the foreign buyers and the sellers in your market? Where are they from? What language do they speak at home? What are the cultural considerations involved in business transactions? Are they inbound or outbound? Do you have more people buying from your city going out and buying somewhere else in the country, or you got people more coming in? And what do they buy? And what are the trends today and tomorrow? How was it yesterday? How's the trend right now? And where do you think it's going from now? How's the housing market going? Those are the things that you need to know. And only the local people will be able to know that in any market in the United States. I have a good idea about Los Angeles market and other cities market because I do a lot of classes and so forth. And I learn from realtors throughout different countries. But I know really well about Seattle market. But that's the main thing, is my strength is knowing the Seattle market and around Seattle market. So that should be your main strength, is to know the local market. Look at our market outreach. This is on page 36 on your booklet. You can be the real estate agent. You cannot be the real estate agent for the entire world. There's just no way that you're going to be able to understand everything that happens in the real estate market in the world. So you want to do is...
Excuse me, Mark, may I stop you a little bit?
Sure.
Just regarding the local market analysis. Because well, I used to use New York for a while, so I want to make comparison a little bit between the market price. Yeah, in Manhattan we know already, so it's high. But how about the Bronx, Brooklyn, or Flushing, or Queens?
So right now, so in New York, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Can we compare? Is it the same market price between in Brooklyn and in New Jersey?
It's not. It's not the same price, and of course, it's very local. And right now, I lived in New York for 9 years, in I say late 80s to early 90s. And, by that time, Manhattan price was always expensive, but no one wanted to live in Bronx or even Brooklyn.
So,
but now it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Prices in Brooklyn is very expensive. Bronx is raising as well. It's a Flushing, which is a Queens. Queens price is very, very high as well. But Manhattan is one of the few places right now the price dropped. One of the few markets in the United States, the price dropped because it was too expensive. And a lot of people wanted to get out of the city. With the COVID, they didn't want to be stuck in a condominium. They wanted a house with a yard. And you could buy a bigger house outside of the city. And you didn't have to commute anymore. And a lot of people choose to live in New Jersey because house prices are cheaper in New Jersey. And sometimes, maybe coming from some parts of Queens, New Jersey could be very closer to Manhattan, right? Depends on where.
So, how about Flushing and New Jersey? Is it still, Flushing is still higher price than New Jersey?
Flushing, yes, depends on what part of the Flushing. Overall, yes. But depends on what part of New Jersey. New Jersey is getting very, very expensive, especially right along the Hudson River, right? Or just across the bridge. It's a very, very expensive.
How about Long Island? How about Long Island?
Long Island's always been an expensive place. Especially further you go out, more expensive it gets. But remember, Long Island, when you say Long Island, Queens is like a part of the border of the Long Island as well. So it's all different. And the market changes all the time. And it's impossible to know every single market in even the United States, or even impossible to know every single market in Cambodia or whatever. Or that's why when you want to be global agent, you think about your niche, meaning that where can I put specialty on? So for me, my example, number one, I'll give you an example on this local market. So my main group of the Asian people that I deal with almost inbound to United States investment, I speak Japanese fluently, but my number one client is Vietnamese. I don't speak Vietnamese. Number one client is Vietnamese, Taiwan Chinese. Number 3 is Japanese, and number 4 is Russian. So I say, Mark, you only speak Japanese. Why Vietnam, Taiwan, and Russia even? Here's the reason why. Because one of my first client that I had in real estate 21 years ago was a Vietnamese client. I helped them really well. I did my best I can, and we became a good friends, and they trust me as a real estate agent. So they introduced me to other Vietnamese in my town. Then it went so on and so on, and grew into their relatives in Vietnam who wants to make an investment. That's how my real estate business, international business, grew. And I didn't really work with a lot of the Japanese for the first 4 or 5 years because I was not concentrating on global business. But my global business started locally, same as a Russian. I was referred by the agent from Vancouver to help this Russian client buying in my area. It's actually the Russian Canadians. So the Canadian, as a Canadian, they wanted to buy a property in the United States. So they bought a property for investment and actually for some of their kids to go to school and so forth. And that network grew. They introduced me to other Russian people who wanted to buy in the United States. From there, and most of my Russian clients are coming from Canada, not from Russia itself, but I have the biggest Russian clients from Canada. So it's all about me looking at opportunities in my local market. I didn't go to Vietnam to try to pitch myself. I didn't have to speak Vietnamese. And even in Japanese, I never seek for a Japanese client. I only help a lot of Japanese clients that lives in the United States, the immigrants, but not an investor. But same thing is, because the relationship I built through the NAR's activity, like a CIPS, or I held many different positions. I was ambassador to Japan and Mongolia for almost 4 years. and now with a global global coordinator for Asia Pacific, and all the relationship I had through the Realtors Association and some of the ARIA, means Asian Real Estate Association of America. It's another Asian Real Estate Association. I'm a member of that, and I'm on the advisory board of there. I grew my Asian friends, a lot of friend realtors and real estate agents, and that's where my people starting to come. Of course, and plus the Seattle started becoming very popular with a lot of the IT companies that's coming in, right? Seattle is home of Microsoft, Amazon, you know, like, and we have a lot of big companies that's coming in like Google, and they all have offices in the campuses here as well. So that's where my business grew for Japan as well. But it's all started in local. I didn't go to Japan and says, I'm from US, please buy property in US. I never have to do that. So look around. What I'm trying to tell you is look around in your area, see what kind of opportunities are there to potentially further your business abroad.
Yeah. Thank you much for experience. Mostly Cambodian, they use like Khmer and English, Chinese, Japan. Some people like Korea, because some developer in buy land for the project, like Japanese and Korea. Some mostly some Chinese, but we're talking about Vietnam and Thai a little bit. And say hi, Basti. Continue, Mark.
Yeah. So that's what happens. So look around and see in your market who's actually coming in. And maybe those are the people you're going to approach here locally. You don't have to go to Japan. I think it'd be cheaper to try to market in your own market and try to go to Japan. And of course, you know, as the relationship grows, as the Asia coordinator for NAR, we want to make sure that we want to strengthen the relationship between the countries in Asia as well. And we will have a networking session that's coming up in September with the Asian countries with NAR. Okay, that's coming up in September. We'll let you know when that comes. But that's coming up in a Zoom. We're able to do this. It's easier with a Zoom. And how are you going to select where you want to be? Maybe the different language that you might speak. You speak English. A lot of people speak English really well, the people in the class today. And that's a very plus advantage. And affinity, what is affinity? Where you belong to. And maybe where you like to travel a lot. Or wherever you like to travel a lot, you know, like I love going to wherever, I just like Bali all the time. Then maybe that's the area that you want to concentrate. Or maybe I go to Hawaii, I like Hawaii. Or maybe it's a London, or you know, wherever it might be. That could be your target because you want to do business where you like doing business with. And your personal interest might be. I might have a very interesting Asian Egyptian culture. So I want to go to Egypt all the time and know about it. Maybe that might be the place that you're going to do business with. And your interest and participation must be authentic. What does that mean? It's don't just pretend like you like Egypt, you know, because people will see it through if you're not authentic or if you're not real. You're just doing for business, it doesn't work. And we'll see what happens after COVID, right? How that we could travel the world again. Because this is one pandemic does not mean that we'll never have a COVID. I know that we're not going to have a COVID-20 because we're finished 2020 already. We don't know whether it's going to be a different COVID or different other diseases. So I don't know whether that border is going to be open like it used to be. We'll find that out. You know, we're beginning to find out. Probably not this year, but next year we'll know how the other countries are with the COVID. By the end of the year, hopefully most of the country at least started and most of the people are being at least vaccinated. So that will tell. Like in United States, how is the vaccine in Cambodia? Is people getting vaccine already or not too many people?
Around over 2 million, they are already vaccine, like from Sinopharm. And right now the PM Prime Minister Hun Sen, they are bringing up more, so mostly they provide to in the capital like Phnom Penh and they provide to like a tourism place, Siem Reap, and the beach, say in Will coming up.
So basically, for Cambodia, they want to make sure the place if there's a lot of movement of the people, they want to make sure take care of it, and they want to get the tourist spot open back up again because that's the economy, right? In United States, like I said, hopefully they'll be reaching 70% of the adult population 12 years and older by July 4th. That's our President Biden's goal. But like for myself, I got 2 shots of vaccine already. And by tomorrow, I'm fully vaccinated because second vaccine I got was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So I'm fully vaccinated starting tomorrow.
Added to my friend Soknim, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. As the data I heard yesterday, more than 3 million people have been vaccinated in Cambodia. Not
good.
Not 2 million.
So what's the population of Cambodia?
About over 16 million.
16 million?
Yeah.
So good. You're on the way. We're getting there.
Yeah, we are among the top in ASEAN that have been.
Yeah, Asian countries, definitely. Yeah. I think you're a lot further than Japan is, percentage-wise. Japan's very, very slow. It's amazingly slow. And it's almost crazy that they're going to have Olympics. But, I'm Japanese, but I'm not in Japan. So.
Yeah, Max, can go back to my question. Because
sure.
I want to finish my question. My question sure. It involved with how I see Phnom Penh's capital city and some area nearby Phnom Penh, which is across the river, like the Hudson Rivers in New York. I see Phnom Penh, and Phnom Penh is like it's Manhattan, New York, and I see kk-NAR is look like in Long Island, and I see Chro Chungwa is look like in Brooklyn, and I see Chua Ampo is look like in Bronx. So that's why I want to analyze the local market, how it would improve, that's why I make a comparisons in New York, that New York we have a smaller city, like 4 or 5. That's why, because I have a long vision and I makes a clear perspective in parallel with the development plan of Phnom Penh capital cities by our governments. So I look at Phnom Penh in the next 5 years, 6, 7, or 10 years. So that's why I asked you compare between the land in Manhattan and the land in Long Island. Is it the same price or Long Island is higher?
Depends on what part of Long Island.
Long Island, it is.
Yeah, I know where it is, but even within a Long Island, there's different areas.
Nearby is the the Gulf Coast. We have the one.
U.S. Open. That's further towards the tip. Definitely, those places are higher in the price. You can't really compare with Manhattan because the building styles are different. You have more estate style home, meaning that you have a large home and large land out there versus Manhattan. It's the only way you're going to go is up, right? There's no way to go to sideways. It's a total different. And you're looking at 2 of the most expensive places to live in the world, and United States as well. And people who lives out there and have places, there are that's why even within a Manhattan, there's big price differences. Because if you go towards the northern part of the Manhattan, it's a lot more, especially on the west side of it, it's cheaper than the east side. And so there's, even within the Manhattan, markets are very pocketed. And not necessarily when you look at investment-wise, return on investment, the Manhattan might not be the best place. It just depends on what you're looking for. But I could tell you the price in Manhattan came down a little bit. in last year or so.
How much per square meter now in Manhattan?
Yeah, Manhattan is it's coming down, but still Manhattan is more expensive than Long Island.
And
Anyway,
stay with you in Phnom Penh now, it's from 5K to 8K per square meter in the city center, and some areas at least 4K to 5K per square meter. How about in Manhattan?
Manhattan, I'm not sure what, I don't know the details on the Manhattan since it's not my market. I don't know what the scare, I mean, you probably be able to figure out. You could just Google it and you probably be able to figure out. But Manhattan is a totally different market because Manhattan's real estate is right now still, most of the real estates are controlled by a Jewish people.
Yeah.
And it's a very different, Manhattan is a very different, they don't even have a MLS system like they do in the rest of the country. Manhattan is very, very old school, the real estate itself, so it's a very different. All right, but we'll study more about United States and maybe some of the question you might have be answered as well. So it is very good. And you're making a comparison between, you know, New York and Phnom Penh area. Yeah, you could make the comparison because Phnom Penh could be like New York in who knows how long. So there could be a long term, but you have to see a lot of places. But each market's different, whether the price is going up or down. There are some city center, the prices are going down in the rest of the world, especially with the COVID-19, a lot of investment portfolio changed as well. And maybe it's a good time to talk about it. And when the more modern during the COVID-19, especially 2020s, a lot of people who have to make an investment. There are people who have to invest money because it's their job and they can't have money just sitting. When they look at a cities where they could invest on the large city that's COVID safe, right? One of the larger investment cities in the world is like New York, right? In the United States. New York was very bad with COVID, right? One of the worst place in the world. And they look at London. London was very bad too, right? So, and they looked at Tokyo. Tokyo is not a great, but if you look at large cities, Tokyo was one of the safest and least COVID people overall. So there was a lot of money flew to Japan for large investment. So a lot of the large office buildings and so forth were bought by foreigners because that was the safest place to invest when they looked at COVID. So that could be shifting as well as we go along. New York is one of the first states in the United States that came out right now. They're 100% back on their economy. So we'll see how that happens. We'll see, you know, I think that keeps shifting as well. So COVID-19 definitely did affect our real estate market, except for the United States. We'll talk about that next week, about United States real estate market. All right. So with all these are said, what do you want to be? Is you want to be the go-to person when they talk about global businesses or even certain country. Maybe you have a friends from Japan. I'm just using Japan as example, or you go to Japan all the time or whatever, that you know a lot about Japanese. You're involved in the Japanese community, even though you might not be Japanese. So you want to be the person they come to you when the people in the community thinks, oh, I want to know more about Japan or Japan real estate, that they're going to pick you. That's one to be. So that's why you want to participate in community events, the ethnic events that they might have, or join the social clubs for expats. Expats are foreigners who's living in your country for temporary basis, right? Make your online presence more global. Maybe when you have a website in Cambodian, maybe make an English website as well, or be able to translate, or maybe present a buyer seminar for foreign people, how they could buy a home in Cambodia and the local people as well. And also take advantage of a CIPS designation. We'll talk about importance of CIP designation a little bit later. Tap into your association resources. Stay in local association, global forums, council, and committees. You might not have that there, but other global real estate professionals. You have the ARENA, which is a association of Asian, ASEAN Real Estate Network Association, or maybe you have a FIAPSI, NAR, and other NAR Global, and NAR's partner association. We have a partner association in most of the Asian countries. And you're able to use their resources if you want to reach out to certain country as well. And I'll be more than happy to connect to you and your association with other countries. And maybe your association and maybe associations in China or Japan or Korea make a friendship, global friendship bilateral agreement like you have with the NAR. That could happen as well, and we could help you with that as well. We're looking at page 39 to 40. Target marketing, meaning so it is okay to target market if you're going to target towards Japanese, but in the United States, we have to watch and be careful so we don't discriminate. In the United States, you cannot discriminate based on the age, sex, backgrounds, and all the, ethnicity and so forth. And focus your target activities on what clearly permissible under the law. This is more for United States. How about properties? What is your specialty in the properties? Are you specialty in the fixer-upper or condominiums, single-family home, resort housing, maybe golf course community, resort community, maybe it's a small commercial, large commercial, whatever it might be. Figure out what your target niche is. What do you know the best? Like I said, you cannot be the real estate agent for everybody and everything. And also focus on individual specific needs. Are you going to target foreign buyers that are relocating or near specific hobby or sports offerings? And understand the level of the understanding about the buying process. Does your client, maybe that's why we said, maybe have a buyer seminar. That might be important things to do. All right. This is going on to page 42 and 43. Steps of effective marketing strategy. So number one is research and target demographics. Sorry about number one is define a mission statement. What are you trying to accomplish? Number two, do the research and which demographics are you going to target? Perform a SWOT analysis. What is a SWOT analysis? SWOT is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. For your business and yourself, what is your strength as a real estate agent? And what is your weaknesses as a real estate agent? And what is your opportunity in your marketplace? What you could do, what kind of opportunities are there? And T is a threat. What is the threat? What is threatening your business? Is it government regulation, your competitors? Who are they? And strength is like, I'm very good analyzing data, or I could say I'm very bad doing accounting. So you need to analyze your strength, weakness, and your opportunity that you have in local marketplace, and also the threat. What is threatening your business? Is it government regulation trying to slow down your business, or you have a big competitor in your market? What are your threats? You need to identify that. And define your brand, meaning that you might be part of the big franchise or big company. Maybe that's your brand. But what is your brand? You have to establish your own brand. And what kind of resources do you have in the media area to advertise and so forth? And what is more effective? And what is more cost effective, more so? And also when you're looking at global business, even for your business, you need to set a budget, or how much money you're willing to invest towards a global market or your own market. and so forth. That needs to be established. You gotta be able to analyze the result. You did this and what happened? Did it work or did not work? You need to figure that out. But this goes effective marketing for not just the global market, but this is basically is what you want to do with your marketing plan. And marketing plan, in my opinion, is very important for you, each one of you to have, or whether you're owner of the company or you've been with an individual. Okay. And that is end of module 2. Any questions before we take our next and final break? Anybody? We're okay? If you ever have a question, just remember and write it down so you can ask me tomorrow too. Okay, if you think of something, we'll have a question time in the beginning and any in between modules as well. Any question for module 2? The key point is what? Know your market, know your own real estate market before you think globally. Because that's going to be your foundation. That maybe there might be a potential and opportunity in local market instead of going out to New York or Korea or Japan or China or wherever. It might be there. It might be at your doorstep. Okay, we look good. So it's about 9:08. Let's take another 10-minute break, and we'll come back at about 9:20. Not 9:20. Sorry about that. It'll be 11:20, and we'll finish up for the day.
Hello,
Okay.
teacher. Can I ask you about the back question?
Sure.
I want to ask you one question about how can we do the health good balance of payment? I mean, how can we do to have a good payment?
Okay, you're talking about payment for which what? Sorry about that. Maybe.
The point of balance of the payment. The cake no cake. In on maybe introduction.
Okay. For payment for CIPS?
Yeah.
Or to CIPS? Now you'll talk to your association and they'll tell you how to become a CIPS and what kind of payment that you have to make. And we'll talk about it at the end, what you need to do to get a CIPS as well. And you're going to have to earn some points as well. We go through that at the last day. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. What take our break? because that gives you a little bit of an idea of their background or how they do business as well. Well, let's look at cross-cultural business skills. Allow others to save face. I think that's very common in a lot of the Buddhist cultures and so forth, that you're going to give them an opportunity to save face. You don't point fingers and you don't blame somebody. You let them save face. And other things that you want to know, understand, is on everything. This is more towards the real estate agent, and everything is, we need to talk less and we need to listen to our clients more. This is one thing my grandmother taught me, and I'm still struggling with it, is this. My grandma said, Mark, there is a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you should listen to people more than you talk. And respect the personal space. Personal space is, not all the cultures like to hug. In the Western culture, like United States, we like to give a hug, but maybe some Asian culture, other culture, hug might not be prohibited between female and male unless they're married. So you got to understand about personal space. And some of the country require very good formality is very important. Japan being one of the countries, the formality is very important. In some area, the business conducted very slower pace. You have to be punctual on time, but business does not move fast. And another skills, you want to make sure you have attorneys in the background. You have remember we talked about the attorney. You be part of your team because there could be a legal issues that need to be explained or understanding the legal differences between 2 countries. And recognize a contract negotiation. That's on the page starting 47, but it's going to 48 is the contract negotiation. Because high context culture, sometimes contract is just a matter of an instrument, and we might not be very stick to the contract itself, but it might be a little bit more loose because of the relationship. But in the lower context culture, contract is everything. You follow the law, follow the contract. Continue on. This is starting on the page 49. Respect the hierarchy, respect the elders. And know the business card etiquette. How you give, how you receive business card. And we'll talk about that because probably the most formal business card exchange is probably Japanese, and we'll talk about it when we talk about Japan. Okay. And keeping family matters private. A lot of the high context culture, especially, or even low context culture, you don't bring family or talk about family. You keep it private unless you're asked or unless they tell you. And I think very, very important business etiquette is use the correct name. If you don't know how to pronounce their name, ask them how to pronounce their name. And if you're not fluent on certain languages that you're dealing with, maybe you practice with the interpreter, how you do interpretation or who's going to interpret and things like that as well. And don't trust like a Google Translate or any automatic translator. Double check on your online translations. You might be saying totally different than what you really meant in your language. And especially when you're meeting face-to-face meeting, observe the nonverbal signals. People say only about 20% of communications down through language. And most others are done by our nonverbal communication, how we look at people, how we smile, or how we use our hands and things like that. And of course, use common sense. when you look at it, and look at this on page 50. These are some of the nonverbal red flags. You know, you're adjusting distance during your talk, or you lean back when you're listening to somebody. And sometimes, depends on which culture, in United States, on a low context culture, we're always taught to look at person's eye when you're speaking. But a lot of the Asian culture, like Japanese and Chinese, it is not good to look directly into the eye of person you're speaking. You just kind of look a little bit away. And inappropriate laughter means you laugh when nothing is funny. Or don't talk anything, remain silent, no questions, you don't ask questions. Of course, arriving late to appointment is not good. Or being distracted by screens. What does that mean? Is a lot of times this is a new phenomenon. When doing the meeting and so forth, you're distracted by your cell phones, and you keep looking at cell phones during the meeting, live meeting with somebody. Or display impatience. You get antsy and you start moving around a little bit. So that might be nonverbal red flag. Now they're not really listening to you, or something that you should not be doing. Some behaviors to avoid. Hands in the pockets or hips. Or intense, prolonged eye contact means you keep staring at their eyes. In some culture, crossing your legs is not good. Showing the sole of the feet or shoes is not good. Pointing or touching with the feet. Or getting too close to people, invading your personal spaces. Or initiating physical contact, which might be hug or kiss on the cheek. Showing impatience, we talk about it. And pointing or back knowing with the fingers. Very careful about pointing fingers. And also your hand gesture, because some of the hand gesture might be different in some cultures than your culture. Any questions so far?
Yes, Matt, one question.
Sure.
Do you think culture affects the economy's growth, and why or why not?
Culture affect economy. Definitely it does. At least the speed of the economy affect the culture, affect the speed of the economy as well, and the growth as well. Definitely it does. And we'll see it as we study country to country. And we'll study about how their cultural behavior is important in the business standing as well.
That's right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Sorry, Mike, could you go back to last slide?
Okay, this one?
Yes, could you go more detail and some example of adjusting distance and leaning back? What is
Okay,
that?
so adjusting distance, you can see it like here. When I'm talking to you, you keep going like this, or you keep going like, or leaning back means you're leaning back and relaxing. You're saying, this is very disrespectful, right? When you talk to me and I'm leaning back like this, that's very disrespectful.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the things. It's something like we talked about remaining silent or no questions. When you're in a negotiation in the comments, not having a question, having a silence might not be a good thing. You might want to ask questions,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? And we're going to learn by most of the large countries on their business culture and red flags, as well as we study the country in a couple of weeks once we start studying in the countries as well. Okay.
Mark, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you, from your experience, can you show some of the inappropriate laughter across countries?
and a little bit of a laughter, because especially when there's a language difference, it might be funny to you, but it might not be funny to the other party because we don't have the language barrier or language barrier. Because a lot of times, let's say I might make a joke in English in Cambodia, and I kind of laugh when I joke about it, but none of the Cambodian people, even though they speak English, they don't think it's funny. Because sometimes joke is sometimes very country specific, that doesn't work. And some of the things we'll study in the United States, like next week, is like in the United States, we use a lot of sports analogies, meaning that we use a sports word to explain the situation. And that might not be, as a Cambodian, you might not even understand. We'll see it, we'll test it next week. When I say this, what do you think it means? We'll do that, okay?
Okay.
So the laughing on something, so that's why try to avoid make jokes, okay? Jokes never work, especially in a negotiation is serious, because it might not be funny to the other party as well. So, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Are we good so far?
Jeff, I think we are, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, negotiation is decision making. 51. Some cultures are looking for win-win. Most of us are winning for win-win, right? To win. Everybody wants to win. But sometimes they have to be win-lose. Some of the culture prefer just to win-lose. They don't have to have a win-win. And they might have to have some consensus to make a decision. Or they might take a committee, group of people to make a decision. Or maybe it doesn't matter what the lower person said, the hierarchy person makes the final decision, maybe. If especially with like a company negotiation. Some company, the president always make the decision. Even though everybody agrees, when the president says no, it means no. So you need to understand that. And most of the culture, there is a pattern for each culture as well. And we will study that as we study the different regions in the world. And you need to accept and adapt to the client's practices. Remember, when you're dealing with a foreign person on the real estate, unless they have experience in your country, only real estate experience they might have is from their own country. And we'll give some of the items like that as we go along on our courses, examples that I have a counter here. Because of the language barriers and so forth, sometimes it's always to follow up in writing on what discussion you did. That's even a good practice, even within the United States with a client and somebody, because a lot of times we do a lot of texting, using the phone calls and everything else, but I always follow up in writing, especially with the email says, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, per our discussion over the telephone, these are items that we decided to do and we agreed on, and send it over so that everybody understands and there's no misunderstanding. It's very important, especially on the international global transaction, when sometimes the language and the culture and the understanding of how the real estate is done could be different as well. And this might not be different in every country, but at least in the United States and as a realtor, we should understand that cultural differences in this regards exist. Gender issues, sexual preferences, race, age. That might all make a difference. It might be in some cultures, it's okay to discriminate. It's not in the law. But is it good practice? Probably not. We should treat everybody with the respect, but depends on country and the culture. There might be something that we have to understand. Each culture have a different opinion about gender issues, sexual preferences, even race, nationalities, ethnic background, or age, especially in real estate. I don't want to rent it to a female. I don't want to rent it to an older person or younger person, or there might be things like that as well. And we have to be aware of it. It's different in each country. Continuing on, page 52, it talks about religious tradition in businesses. A lot of the religions are fundamental to our cultural identity, norms, and traditions, right? I think there are many cultural things that within the Cambodia that are affected by religion, what you believe in, as what country believes in. And I think it's important to, at least to learn about other beliefs and the traditions. And you should be able to maintain your own beliefs and tradition while respecting the others. You don't have to follow their religious tradition, might not have to, but you always have to understand it and have a respect towards it, because respect goes both ways. You want the other party to respect you, and you want to respect the others as well, especially on the religious tradition in business. Especially a lot of the Asian countries, a lot of business decisions are based on religious belief or traditions, right? Same as Cambodia, right? What do you think? Right? A lot of your Buddhist tradition, right?
True.
Right? A lot of the Buddhist tradition, that's influence how people buy and sell houses or even make a decision, right? And we have to respect that. And it happens in every different culture. So it's always good to understand. And we'll study about a lot of the Asian religions and so forth coming up as well. Active listening. What does that mean? Facilitate cross-cultural communication. Active listening, there's a chart on here on the page 53. Well, you see, what is active listening? Listening is not just active. You ask open-ended questions, and we'll talk about it here. Active listening is what? Number one, you pay attention to what other people are saying, and without judgment. Basically, oh, Mark is speaking, I'm speaking again. When he talks, he's only going to talk about this, so I don't want to listen to Mark. Withhold that judgment and reflect on what they said. And ask questions when you need to be clarified. You need the clarification. Mark, I don't understand. Can you repeat that again? Or Mark, I don't understand. Can you explain more? And you should be, at least in your mind or head, be able to summarize or paraphrase what person has said and trying to understand what they are trying to do. And of course, you want to share information. If you have information, active listening goes both ways. It's not just sitting there listening, but you have to ask questions. You have to be involved in a conversation. We're just taking the example of the Hispanic consumers in the United States. Hispanic is one of the larger members in the United States who speaks different languages. Largest minority is African American, but most of them speak English. But Hispanics, we have the largest, the non-English speaking consumers. So when we look at it, these are some of the stats that's there. This is all listed on the page 57, 56, and 57. And you could read that a little bit later and figure out, but this is some examples. So when you study these, you understand what Hispanic markets looks like. And that's one thing that you might want to do. If you want to concentrate on Japanese in your Phnom Penh market, you're going to look, okay, and say, okay, what percent of the Japanese people are immigrants who's living in Phnom Penh in permanent basis versus some are expats who are living there for time being because their work or whatever it might be. So those are the things that you want to do. You want to figure out your market is. Okay. Any questions on module sleep or anything from today? We've got about another 10 minutes, 15 minutes to finish off today. So if you have any question, please. Any questions, okay. Doesn't have to be this topic. Any questions, okay. Anybody have a question before we
finish
for the day?
ដូចជាសួរច្រើនហើយបងប្អូនសួរផងបងឃើញអានមួយគ្រប់គ្នា
Okay. Everybody's okay?
Yeah.
I am okay.
Okay. So if you have a more question that you
hello Mark, hello.
Go ahead.
Could you share with us what are the benefits to be member of CIPS?
I mean, I'm going to be going over that on the last day, but right now the benefit of being a CIPS, number one, is a networking that you're going to have. There's over 5,000 CIPS throughout the world. So you're able to network with them. And best way to network with them right now is the CIPS have a special member only Facebook page. That's the way we could communicate with other countries and other realtors. Or if you have a referral or you're trying to find an agent in certain area, certainly we'll be able to find you one as well. And there's a marketing items that you could use as a CIPS. And definitely the CIPS designation is going to carry a worldwide. Remember, this is a worldwide designation. Only about 5,000 realtors have it worldwide. So that becomes a very important as well. So we'll talk a little bit more in the detail with the slides at the last session. Anybody else?
Mark.
Hello. Hello, Mark.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, today we discussed a lot about culture. So could you have to share about buyer from China about their culture when they want to invest in real estate?
So China, we'll talk about it. China is one of the countries that we'll be studying when we study Asia. So we will study more into details.
Okay.
So some of the countries, if you get a material, some of the country will study a little bit in detail, some of them in less detail, but a lot of countries, or main countries, will study in detail. Okay?
Okay.
And we'll talk, then we might be able to find answers there, or you might have more questions. Anybody else?
Mark, I have one more question.
Sure.
Back to the statistic of the buyer in the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see any local buyer. Does that mean in the United States, most buyers are from other countries, not from their local?
No, they don't put that as a statistics only on the foreign buyers. So in United States, in the real estate market right now, we have about 7 million transactions that we do every year. 7 million transactions a year in United States. And foreign buyer right now is probably about 10%, 10 to 15% of the actual transactions of foreign buyer and investors.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
And we'll study more about that next week when we study the United States in detail.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Mark, one more question, please.
Sure.
You know, in your perspective, as we already know this course, we will study about the real estate in America, in Europe, in Asia Pacific. So you know, doing the real estate, if without having our present or residence or living permanently in that area, we cannot sell a property to like in Europe or in America or in, you know, like in other country. For example, I am in Cambodia.
Right.
I have to know very clear about the property, the market research analysis from A to Z in my location in Cambodia.
Sure.
Otherwise, I cannot sell it.
Right.
So how can the, you know, like a sort of times, and we never been, for example, someone never been in Europe, but how can they sell the properties in Europe because they don't know the situation or land?
The thing is, number one, you are not going to be selling in Europe. You're going to be teaming up with somebody in Europe, in whatever the country, whatever the city is, to sell the real estate for your client. Then you'll be able to collect a referral fee on that. Because, you know, some country requires license to sell real estate, or some, you know, you need a business license or even the license to practice real estate. But goal is, why study these countries when you cannot sell it, is when you are introducing your clients to about the Germany's real estate, you could help them do a pre-study about the Germany, and you sound more intelligent when you know how the real estate in Germany is conducted. Then you pass it on to your fellow CIPS member who taken the same class as you did, going to help that client as well. So you have a better communication, better understanding. That's the whole goal of CIPS. And also, if the German people are coming to buy in your town, you understand about Germans real estate, so you know how to help them and show them the difference between the Germans' real estate and the Cambodia's real estate. The knowledge is the key on this one. By taking this class doesn't mean that you could go sell real estate in Japan, China, or, you know, Europe. That's not. But it helps you give a better ideas on how the real estates are conducted in that country. So you sound more intelligent and you have enough information to tell your buyer or the seller says, look, this is how it's done in Germany. Then the more detail, because I truly believe that real estate is local. I am not even going to try, even maybe I spoke a Cambodian, I will never try to sell a property in Cambodia because I don't know the market. I'm not there every day. I want to rely on the experts like yourself to be able to help my client the best way. Because remember, it's not about just selling or buying. It's about creating relationship with your client so that they become your good client and they give you more business from them and their friends and everybody else. That's the whole goal. It's not about making money for that time only. Because if you're in the real estate just to make that money for that transaction, you're not going to survive in this business because it's still a people business. Okay?
Thank you for sharing these added values to the course.
Yeah. All right. So global business, you know what, is nothing different than your local business. You have to look at best interest of your client before your money. That's the key to every single service industry, especially in the real estate. Doesn't matter it's in US, Cambodia, China, Japan, or wherever it is. That's the attitude that we want to have. That's why we as a Realtor and member of Realtors Association, we abide by our code of ethics that it has. It's above and beyond what licensing law is in the United States. But we'll study about that more next week. All right. If there's no other question, let's wrap it up for the day. Go ahead.
Mark, one question to you.
Sure, go.
Okay. According to the culture, yes, different culture, and any effect to the business or not, when we face the problem with COVID-19 like this, because people cannot face to face or meet each other, is something like that. Any idea or advice during COVID-19?
You know
some
what?
culture we need to, yeah.
And during COVID-19, everything changed, right? Not everything, but a lot of things changed. One thing that it has not changed is human to human connection. Of course, we're not able to see face to face, but right now, on like yourself, we're able to see each other on the screen, right? And we are thousands of miles away. and you're lunchtime or getting to 12 noon in Cambodia and almost at 10 p.m. here in Seattle. It's a nighttime. But what my advice to you is, doesn't matter how it is, important part is keep communicating and ask the question. Don't pretend like you know them. Just because you took a CIPS class and study about China doesn't mean that you know everything about China. When there's a question, ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Remember, it says on the active listening, ask the question. It says, and a lot of questions, they could be like this. So let's say we're dealing with a certain ethnicity people. And ask that general question, which I do a lot of things. A couple of questions I ask, is there anybody else that you need to talk to or consult with before you're making a decision?
Okay.
That's respecting the hierarchy, right? And the other question is there anything else that's important to you when you're making a decision to buy or sell this house? And culturally, I'm gonna say, you know what, I need to go and I need to pray, or whatever it might be. You ask that question and let them do that. You ask the question because it's not offensive to ask question. So don't be afraid to ask question. Don't pretend like you know. You can do that on the Zoom. It doesn't have to be face to face. You could ask the Zoom. What's important to you? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Anybody else? And let me ask you a quick question. What time is a normal lunchtime in Cambodia?
12.
12 o'clock is a normal time?
Yes.
Okay. Because some countries it's different. Because I found out when I go to Mongolia, most of the lunch hour starts at 1. So I was always wonder why the class, when I teach over there, that goes to 1 o'clock. Now, I didn't know why, but it's 1 o'clock is usually their lunchtime. So 12 o'clock, right? Okay. All right. So it's almost lunchtime for you. So enjoy your lunch, whether you're at home, and please stay safe out there. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at the same time, and we'll finish the first course of the local business. All right.
Yep.
Have a great afternoon, guys.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
And just remember your homework. Somebody have to tell me how the Cambodia and Phnom Penh or whatever market is tomorrow. Okay, so remember that. So somebody have to tell me how the Cambodia market was. I want to learn. Okay. Okay. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
See you, Mark.
Tomorrow. Okay, see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye,
Mark.
See you, Mark.
Tomorrow.
Bye. See you tomorrow, Mark.
Bye.
Good luck, everyone.